Okay, third game on this channel. Let's go. Playing Volbin 2020 from Bulgaria. 2130 with a respectable amount of games. Let's play. Alright, we got an Indian defense. We're going to play some mainline d4. And maybe we get an Nimzo. No, okay, so we get a QGD. And I like going for this line with the early exchange in bishop g5 and playing for the f3 and the e4 plan. Okay. Alright, now bishop d6 is a very slightly unusual move order. Because normally they interpose with bishop e7 to block that pin. Now I'm going to play knight e2, so I have the f3 and the e4 plan available. And now I'm going to castle. No, okay, so this is that was almost a very major blunder. So the thing about the bishop on d6 is it menaces some Greek gift ideas with a sack on h2, knight g4 check, and then the queen takes the hanging bishop on g5. So I have to play either h3 first, or I can drop the bishop back and exchange my quote-unquote bad bishop for his good bishop. Now I think what I want to do is play h3 here, controlling this square and disallowing any bishop h2 sacks. And now if h6, okay, so I'm just going to castle now. Should be safe enough. And I have to consider whether I want to drop back or whether I want to propose this exchange. And I think I should go for the exchange here. Just taking a second to consider. Yeah, let's allow this exchange. So this is my bad bishop because it's the same color bishop as the color on which my pawns are arranged. And this is his good bishop because it complements his light square pawn structure. So if I can arrange this exchange, in theory, it's a slight positional win for me. Okay, so now I think I should be playing for the minority attack with b4, b5. Looks to me like he's opening up his light square bishop, preparing knight g6 in some cases. So I think I'll maintain this tension for now and allow him to improve my knight if he wants to. And now the question is, do I develop the queen c2, or do I play for a3, b4, perhaps rook b1, b4? Maybe even rook c1, but that seems a little bit imprecise. Rook b1, a5, a3. Yeah, this is typical Carlsbad stuff, but I always get tripped up by the move order. Maybe I should be starting with queen c2 so I control the e4 square from any knight jumps. Because if he can't get his knight into e4, then it becomes a little bit more stuck. So maybe queen c2, knight e6, then I exchange. Let's go ahead and do this. And I can always play for the minority attack later. So now I'll exchange. And I think rook b1 here is in order. Let's do it. Yeah, a5. So now I can prepare with a3. Just making sure you can't clamp down, but I have that square sufficiently defended. So a3, b5, b4, takes, and then he has a c4 square to work with, but his knight is fairly far away from that square. So oftentimes in these Carlsbad structures, black will be trying to play for some sort of mating attack on the king side, and white will be playing for expansion on the queen side and creating weaknesses over here, namely on the c6 square. If I can arrange b4, b5 takes, and then I get a bit of an outpost on c5, and I can target his weakness, the base of the pawn chain, after exchanging. It is only one weakness, and often you need two weaknesses in an endgame to poke and prod and overextend your opponent. But it's a start. So I wonder what he's considering here. Maybe, yeah, b5, b4, takes, and then I can try to get a knight into c5, maybe via c1, so knight c1 to b3 to c5. Okay, wow, very aggressive g5. I think he wants g4, which kind of makes sense, playing on the king side, as he should be doing. Am I worried about this? Takes, and the knight comes in. He's threatening mate. I can block it with knight g3, but then it gets a little bit hairy. I wonder if I should be exploding the center with e4. I do give myself an ISO, and I weaken this square. Got 2.5 minutes. I gotta speed up a little bit here. Should I be concerned about this? What about a move like this? Because he's weakened these light squares by thrusting his pawn forward. It's a little bit counterintuitive because I do allow an exchange of his bad bishop if he just drops his knight back. But it's interesting. I'm going to go for it. Because the more minor pieces get exchanged, the more it favors white. Yeah, and it's also controlling this square. In some cases, if these pieces get exchanged, I can plunk my knight into this nice f5 outpost. So maybe something like this. I exchange bishops. I wonder whether g4 there is an option. Or maybe knight g3 here. Then maybe he can play this. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take. I can always play knight g3 next if I want. Yeah, so it seems like Black's plan has been productive while he's managed to shift his initiative over on the king side and play over on the king side, whereas my play on the queen side has not yet really gotten started. Okay. Long term, this should favor me, but in the short term, Black has a little nagging initiative. Now he still wants g4, I believe. Maybe after this, I can just play the knight here and say that's not really an issue. Or knight here, g4 takes. And he's threatening sacks on e3. Dangerous, to be sure. Maybe I should meet g4 with h4. I think that's correct. Yeah, meet g4 with h4. Kind of wonder whether I should be preemptively playing this and controlling the knight's forward moves, but okay, I just have to start playing a move, and I have to get my queenside play going. I need my counter play going before I get mated over here. So g4, h4. I can even consider taking with a rook and pressuring b7, but I think to make sense of the move a3, I should take back with the a pawn and then play for this break. But maybe after b4, he has c5. Then I can take, and then I have the nice d4 outpost for the knight. Okay. Seems roughly balanced here. We both have our play. Okay, so g4, h4. He would really like to be able to bring his knight into the game. Okay, so now he's preparing to meet b4 with c5. I wonder if I should still go for that and take. Then I have my passed pawn, but then he has the hanging pawns. Maybe I should just be claiming the file. Or maybe, so what about a move like this? Hitting his pawn on b6. Yeah, very little time here. I mean, this is interesting. Maybe just improve my rook. Maybe start with this, because maybe he is threatening c5 here. Let's start with this, see if he wants to break. I have very little time to consider my options here. Although maybe c5, knight b4. And while the knight's on c3, it does stop his knight from coming into e4, because I can exchange that off. It doesn't stop it, but it would be nice to be able to exchange these pieces. So meanwhile, his knight on g7 is a bit sidelined. So c5, I think I can take on, or play knight b4 and then take on c5, and my rook opens up and defends the knight on b5, should be attacked with the queen. So now I think I should take this. If he takes with a rook, maybe knight g3. If he takes with a pawn, yeah, knight g3 or knight c3. It's hard to say, really hard to say. I think knight g3 he takes here. So let's play this. Yeah, knight g3, maybe he sacks on e3 and takes the knight on g3. So knight c3. Does he want rook g4? Keep it active. Maybe it gets a little bit trapped over there. So I have to hurry up with my play. Maybe I should be claiming the file and coming in on the 7th. Start with this. Probably not correct, but I have very little time. Now if he plays b5, I have the c5 outpost. Otherwise, c5, I can take that. So he defends this. Now I think I can play b5 because of the pin on the c file. And if c5, I take it. Getting pretty sharp. So takes, knight takes. I don't think he can exploit that pin. I do get a little bit gummed up. So the question next is, should I be taking on c6? And I think I should. We exchange a few rooks. The nice thing right now is that his queen is tied down to b6. Yeah, so I think my pieces are better positioned now. So I've managed to shift the play back from the king side onto the queen side, which definitely is good for white. His knight is sidelined, his rooks are disconnected, whereas my pieces are all operating in harmony over here on the queen side, and my knight is in the play on the queen side. So basically I'm just playing with an extra piece over here where the action is. And now he's caught up on the clock. Okay. Let's take this. Yeah, and I wonder. So be a little bit careful, but I think I should be getting the 2 rooks for the queen. Queen here, I can just play rook here. Or even just, or no, the knight hangs, but I have checks as well in some cases. Yeah, queen here. Rook moves. Yeah, I think I have to because the knight's pinned. Now he's going to try to get his knight back in the game, but I think I can now take here. This pawn is very weak. Should I insert the check or just take here? Let's take. Okay. So a little bit of caution required here. Let's give a check. I don't think he can target the f2 pawn with his queen and knight, and my rooks are nicely coordinated presently. Okay. So he's going to try to pry open my king side. So I just need to be fairly tactically aware here and don't allow any sacks with the knight to expose my king. I'd really like to be able, yeah, I was gonna say I'd like to be able to get my rook on the 7th, and he allows it. See, the knight was nicely positioned here, defending the 7th, but now I don't know how he deals with this pressure. Okay, I think I'm gonna try to double my rooks. Just make sure I'm not dropping anything. Yeah, because now his knight is just eternally tied down. Oh, I should have played a rook here. Oh, yeah, because the rook is stopped by the knight from doubling along the 7th, but in any case, he flags. I think I'm winning anyway, because I'm up, what, 2 pawns and the 2 rooks against the queen, and the rooks are coordinating very nicely. Okay, so back over 2400 at least. Oof. I was getting pretty nervous when I got low on the clock. Okay, so yeah, +3, +4, definitely winning endgame. Well, let's take a look here. Okay, it looks like I was never actually significantly worse. Let go of the advantage around the late middle game, but a pretty clean game overall. I'm happy with that. Because I'm not terribly familiar with like the move order nuances in these Carlsbad structures. Okay, so let's take a look. So this is an interesting point. This is the thing about the move order I've selected is I do allow the Nimzo, but in return for that, I'm able to enter. I'm not sure if it's called the Botvinnik system, but with this early exchange, and then instead of playing for the normal Carlsbad or the minority attack in the Carlsbad, namely knight f3, a3, b4, which we did end up getting, but because we played a bit of the sideline, but oftentimes in this exchange you can play for f3, e4. So it's kind of a give and take of allowing the Nimzo. Okay, yeah. So this is the first moment. You can see bishop d6 is what the fourth most common move here. Normally they place a bishop on e7, breaking this pen. The thing about the bishop on d6 is you have to be careful about Greek gift sacrifices, which I very nearly fell for in the game because I wasn't thinking, which would have been disastrous. Okay, yeah. And when I say Carlsbad, it just means this structure here where white has this majority through the center on the king side, and black has this majority on the queen side. And it kind of lays a foundation structurally for what each side is playing for. Um, yeah, black gets an open e-file and some play on the king side, whereas white just tries to create weaknesses on the queen side. Okay, so this is all fairly standard. And now here, so look, if I castle here, I imagine it's going to give it, like the evaluation is going to plummet because the bishop takes h2. So castles, bishop h2, king takes, knight g4 is the idea, king drops back, and then queen takes g5. And I've lost a pawn, I've lost my king's safety, and black has all the positional trumps and attacking ideas. Yeah, take, oh, somebody, that's interesting. Somebody actually allowed this in a master level game. Yeah, knight g4, king drops back, queen takes the bishop, and it's just, yeah, horrific. Do not want that out of the opening, so you have to be a little bit cautious. h3 is indicated, controlling the square from knight jumps and just getting out of the range of the bishop. I can play a little bit more coy and play queen c2 and maybe say in some cases I can castle long and just be a little more flexible. Maybe that's not so dumb. So I kind of wonder whether you can get away with playing f3 here, but probably not because h6 is going to make you take on f6 because the rook is attacking f3, right? And if I drop back and takes, yeah, of course I don't want to allow this. Okay. So h3, get castled short. Okay, so I can maintain this pen, but I mean, he can get out of the pen easily enough with this knight on d7 guarding the knight in f6. I'm not sure what my bishop is actually doing here on h4. Just I think on positional grounds it makes sense to exchange these guys, and then later on I can try to reroute my knight into the prime d3 square. Okay, queen c2. It's normal square for the queen. Bishop e5. And f takes, and the knight drops back. f4. I kind of like that. Yeah, kind of like that. You did give black a central majority, sort of like with a, I guess you could call them hanging pawns if he advances here, but yeah, looks like you get significant attacking chances and this really nice thorn pawn on e5, just splitting the board in two. Yeah, knight comes into one of these outposts, f5, f6, maybe g4, in some cases e4. I like this idea. I'll have to remember that. Bishop e5, because this transformation evidently is pretty dangerous for black. Okay, so we get this exchange, and now I'm preparing b4, and I never know if I should be playing a3 or rook b1, or whether rook is better situated on c1, you know, which rook goes where, whether this rook should be coming over, whether I should be playing it through the center. Sometimes you want to be playing for e4, like rook e1 and e4 later on. You do give yourself an ISO, but at least you explode the center and get some active play. Normally that's only indicated if black's attack is getting very dangerous very quick. Okay, so I was surprised he wasn't playing for b5 here. Okay, I was intending b4 just as a knee-jerk reaction, but I think that is a little bit too reactionary. That's just like the normal thing you do in these QGD Carlsbads, but maybe it's not so great because you do concede these two squares, which could be defended with a pawn on b3. Okay, so the engine is saying now that he's weakened the c6 pawn by advancing his b pawn, now it makes sense not to play for b5, but to play against the weakened c pawn on the half open file. Okay, that'd be a much more incisive way of playing this type of position. I'm not worried about b4 here because I think then my knight just gets a really nice outpost. Yeah, the engine doesn't like this so much, so I get a clamp on c5, but black gets a clamp on c4, and you can imagine one of these knights coming into c4 and just sitting there eternally. I can never really get rid of it without giving black a pretty dangerous passed pawn on the c file. Okay, so a3 provokes b5, and now it can kind of shift my attention. So if he blocks things up, I wonder whether I should be just dropping back, yeah, and slowly targeting his weakness. But he went for g5, which was aggressive, and yeah, I can applaud this spirit. Just trying to prize things open on the king side and get things going before I get my minority attack going. And shifting my attention here too. Okay, so maybe bishop f5 was not warranted. Yeah, the engine is saying just drop it back maybe. So this is just an ill-founded idea. Because this is my good bishop complementing my pawn structure, and this is his bad bishop. But I thought this bad bishop sometimes can defend his queenside weaknesses. And while it's also menacing some sack ideas and just bolstering his attack on the king my king side. So the engine suggests that I should immediately point out that he's weakened the f5 square by advancing his g pawn. But it also does make it a little bit susceptible to getting hit. And f5 counter thrust. Wow. Sharp. Sharp stuff. So I continue with my idea. Exchanging lots for bishops, minority attack, and just praying that his attack isn't strong enough. Can't take with the rook here. Okay. And b5, now you have this pawn to target this hook. Like b5, maybe, oh, without hanging the rook, play for a4 and just break things open that way. Yeah, as long as I can break things open on the queen side and kind of shift play in that direction, I should be okay. b6, again, a little bit surprising. I mean, this is fairly tender, this construction. I thought instead of playing b5 immediately and allowing c5, I thought maybe I should just include my rook in the play. Yeah, knight a4, getting these two squares. And kind of preparing for b5. So what happens if I play immediately without playing a peremptory rook c1? Here I thought c5 takes. And I wasn't sure how to evaluate this, whether this central hanging pawns feature outweighs my passed pawn or not. The engine says not, but I thought it looked a little bit scary at least. With less than a minute on the clock to evaluate that. So I thought I'd play a more flexible move rook c1. He does allow the exchange, and now I'm pretty happy because I can play against his weaknesses without worrying too much about his kingside play. If I get one more of these pair of minor pieces off, it just makes my play that much easier. Yeah, so this is what I was with what did I have? 15 seconds on the clock. Yeah, I just maybe rook knight g3 is fine, but I just really did not want to allow this, which the engine suggests is nothing to be concerned about. But with very little time on the clock, he's opening up my kingside. I have this weakness on e3. His knight can get into the game on these weakened squares. Didn't want to allow it, so knight c3 seemed a little bit more stable. And then knight comes to a4, which I wasn't sure about at the time, but doesn't seem terrible. Okay, the queen drops back to defend b6, and now I can just open things up. Yeah, now I was very, like, here I was already very confident with the position, just because my pieces are so much better organized for the area where the play is now transpiring. Wow. Oh, I missed this. Oh, that's terrible. I missed queen a8. Hitting both of these, and I can't defend my hanging pieces. Yeah, those pieces drop off. I have to do this, and that's miserable with this extra piece. Kind of surprised it doesn't give just strictly winning for black. But I guess I am winning the h6 pawn. I wonder. Well, maybe not even taking it, but playing against the king, playing for some sort of perpetual or his weak pawns. But no, I missed that. I only saw queen d7 and queen e8, and I thought then rook c1 to defend everything and winning. But in light of that, yeah, just exchanging the queen for the two rooks was definitely a bad idea. I mean, if I just drop back, I think it's only giving plus 0.6, but I think this is a very annoying nagging edge for white. I can play this forever against his weak b6 pawn. But had to make a snap call with 14 seconds. Yeah, he missed this double attack. We both had a blind spot there. But now it should be pretty trivially winning. I could just take here, blocking this, and then I can bring my knight into c5. Okay, fairly sloppy play with not much time left on the clock, but yeah, as soon as I was able to get to activate my rooks, it was pretty much over from there. Okay, pretty happy with that. So 3-0 so far in this rapid series. Let's see if I can keep it going. Good game to Valbin, and thanks for watching.